good day. This is Richard Wexler with Caring in America, the podcast for caregivers and care recipients. Folks, the ones that have been with me for a while know my story. 20 years ago, working in the software industry, married later, 2 small kids, minding my own business. When between my wife and myself, the 4 parents that we have, they start getting sick one by one by one. We wind up taking care of them for the next 14 years until the last parent passes at 96. Be 19. Started this podcast 2.5 years ago. Earlier this year became the CEO of APlan2Age, which, as you guys know, is exactly what it says. Really encouraging people to plan before older loved ones or they themselves have a health event. We have a special guest with us today, Chris, and I'm going to let him pronounce his last name because I didn't ask him that question. Chris is the president of Retirement Genius. He's a retirement expert with over 25 years of experience. His aim is to assist seniors and their families in preparing for retirement. He established Retirement Genius as an all-in-one resources for seniors to live happily and healthy in their golden years. Welcome, Chris.
Well, Richard, thank you. I appreciate being here. Yes, indeed. My name is Chris Orestis, the president of Retirement Genius. And yeah, I have been in the business of helping families navigate the unique financial challenges of aging and declining health in retirement. There are a variety of stages of retirement that are as you get older into the back 9 of your retirement, oftentimes are overlooked and are the ones that will really come to bite you if you haven't prepared. So this is a great opportunity to have that conversation with your audience, and I thank you so much for inviting me to be here today.
Sure. So tell folks more about Retirement Genius. Tell them about the different product areas you work within, if you want to kind of go through each one of those individually, and how that can be extremely helpful to whether it's the boomer out there or the senior themselves that's aging.
Absolutely. Retirement Genius is a information and resource platform that we founded years ago to help people build and live a well-balanced retirement. It's not enough to just focus on your finances or your health or your lifestyle by themselves. You really need to bring those 3 legs of the stool together to live a well-balanced retirement and achieve what we like to call it retire like a genius. And as I often say, if you focused all of your adult life on making money, but sacrificed your health, and then you go into retirement, what good is that Ferrari doing sitting in your garage if you're too sick to drive it?
Sure.
Vice versa, you may be the healthiest marathon runner out there, but if you're broke, that's not going to be a pleasant retirement either. It's really bringing all the pieces together. And what inspired us to start the company and to go after this goes back, really, I trace it back to my political days. I used to work in Washington, D.C. When I got out of college, I worked in the White House. I worked on Capitol Hill for the Senate Majority Leader. And then I was a lobbyist for a number of years for the insurance industry, the life and health industry. And this was in the 90s, early 2000s. And what we were working on, so much of our efforts were dedicated to, and quite frankly, in Washington, D.C., from a political perspective, the pending crisis we saw coming with the aging population, particularly baby boomers at that time, were still young. Think, I mean, by 2030, only 4 years from now, the last of the baby boomers turned 65.
Oh.
So that aging population is been a priority and something that we really focused on. So when I left Washington to start the company, it was dedicated to helping families access ways to help offset their shortfalls. First of all, we started with how it impacted them with long-term care. And as the years went on, it grew and grew into how could we help people better plan financially, health, long-term care wise, and to configure their lives to be ready to achieve a balanced and fulfilling retirement that wouldn't be undermined by particularly an insidious eventuality that will hit so many of us that is so overlooked, and that is the impact and costs of aging and long-term care.
Sure. No, and you and I are so well aligned. I mean, when we started A Plan to Age, like I said, it's exactly what it talks about. Really trying to encourage people to understand that, and I know you know this well, the long-term care insurance industry says about 70% of us are going to need care. I say that's baloney. You may agree with me or not. I say it's more like 95% of this. For some of us, it may be a short few hours. For a lot of us, it may be multiple years. For many, many of us, it's going to be someplace in between, but not thinking about the cost of care that you know and I know is so expensive. I have literally stood in front of thousands of people educating them. I get these blank, horrified stares when I talk about what it costs to bring someone in the home, what someone, if the adult children live in a different state, mom needs care around the there, or what it's going to cost if mom's even agreeable to move to a senior living community. So, like I said, if you could kind of go through some of the different products, their value, and what people need to understand about them.
Yeah, with the idea that people really ignore this area, they don't plan for it. It's a real failure to plan, and then all of a sudden you have a crisis, oftentimes dropped in your lap overnight. People don't know the differences between things like Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, insurance, whether it's health insurance, life insurance, long-term care insurance. So our company focuses on helping people navigate those things. We help people, we educate people and help them access tools to better understand and work with their Social Security benefits, their Medicare benefits, the potential of Medicaid, on the public side of the funding equation. Then on the private side, working with insurance, annuities, and other asset-based solutions to address their needs to fund their retirement and long-term care. So things like long-term care insurance, life insurance, annuities, but other ways to access things like equity in your home through things like a reverse mortgage, let's say, or benefits you may be entitled to as a veteran. These are all areas that we provide educational information on, both written and video. We have a host of great animated videos that explain so many different elements of retirement planning, living, long-term care. And one area that really has been a focus for us because it was so overlooked, particularly when I left Washington, D.C., and we saw how few long-term care insurance policies were actually being bought and held on to by seniors in this country. Another area that we saw as a huge opportunity for people in this country to help them fund their retirement and care needs was the use of their life insurance policies, that if they weren't going to keep them, and we have a huge abandonment rate of life insurance policies. Almost 90% of life insurance policies purchased will eventually be abandoned before they ever pay out a death benefit. And we looked at that and realized that there was a secondary market for life insurance policies called a transaction called a life settlement. And we looked at that and said, if we could help seniors get to this option before abandoning a life insurance policy, that could free up money for them to turn around and use for their living expenses and potentially their health and long-term care needs. There is, just to give you a sense of the sort of scope, magnitude of this as a solution for people, in a country with over 335 million people, there's only 7.5 million in-force long-term care insurance policies in total.
Wow.
Now, by comparison, there's over 260 million in-force life insurance policies. And we looked at that and said, these life insurance policies are assets owned by the policy owner that if they wanted to, they could sell that policy off to take a percentage of the death benefit while they're still alive, turn around and then use those funds to help them pay for things like long-term care. So we came into the industry and started partnering with big home care companies, assisted living companies, senior care companies across the United States. And 2 decades later, we have funded millions of dollars of care using people's unneeded, unwanted life insurance policies. And through a very quick, simple, and no-cost process, have helped them sell off a policy instead of just dumping it, and then turn around and use those dollars to pay for care.
How long does that process normally take, Chris?
It can be done in as quick as 30 days, but typically it's going to probably take somewhere more in the neighborhood of 60 to 90 days, depending on how long it takes to guide a family through the process. When you do a life settlement, think of it very much like the selling of your house. And that's actually a very good comparison. So you make mortgage payments on your home for years. And then one day when you're done living in the home, what do? Do you drop your keys in the driveway and abandon your home and just leave it on the side of the road? Well, no. What do? You sell your house for its market value. Well, it's the same with a life insurance policy. It's the same legally recognized asset as your home. If you own a life insurance policy, it's personal property, just like your home. You make premium payments on a policy for years, and then one day when you're done with it, you don't have to abandon it. You can sell the policy off. Now, one caveat is that this is predicated on age and health, and ironically, it is the one financial instrument out there that will reward the owner of the policy with more value the older and the sicker they become. So
Interesting.
If you're young and healthy, that's when you're an ideal candidate to buy insurance, to buy if you're in your 40s, your 50s, even your 60s, and you're healthy, you should be looking at owning life insurance, owning long-term care insurance, things like that. But as you get older and sicker, you're no longer going to qualify to buy life insurance, to buy long-term care insurance. But if you own a life insurance policy at that stage of your life, you're above the age of 65, you have health impairments, you're thinking about needing care, that's when a life settlement on an already existing life insurance policy could be the right option to help you fund that budget shortfall that you're going to encounter when you discover that aging in place with a home care company or moving into a beautiful assisted living community could easily start costing you $10,000 a month cash.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic information. And the example I'm thinking about is someone, maybe there's a bad fall, turns into a broken hip. They wind up in the hospital. They're there for 3 or 4 days. They have surgery. They're then off to a skilled nursing facility for which could be a month or longer as they transition from the wheelchair to a walker. And then the question, they're going to go back home, potentially need someone coming in the home, which will cost money, or as we've talked about, potentially move to a senior living community. And when I asked you the time frame, since so many people wait until that bell goes off and that they're not doing anything until something actually happens, I can see where this could comply with them from a time perspective to get the money that they need from the policy to be able to pay for that care. Is there any limit on the way they can use the money once they get it?
No, there's no limit whatsoever. Just like if you sold your house and you walked away with a net proceed of, let's call it $100,000, that's your money and you can do with it as you please. But the one consideration when it comes to the world of long-term care is use of funds from the sale of an asset as it impacts your future Medicaid eligibility. So if you do a life settlement with a life insurance policy and you receive a lump sum of money, if you're spending that on care, that's actually a Medicaid qualified spend down. And your private pay, you're in a position to choose the form of care and the location of care because you're private pay. Remember, if you're on Medicaid, you're a ward of the state and you're no longer in charge of what's going to be happening with you. You'll go to a nursing home that you're assigned to, and you're going to share a room with one or two other people. But if you're private pay, now you maintain control. And if you decide you want to age in place and you're spending $5,000 a month on home care support and services, that's a private pay spend down, which is a Medicaid spend down, that's keeping you at home in control, but you're doing it in compliance with Medicaid spend down rules.
That's awesome. I mean, that is so from an education standpoint. And my guess is yes. Have you seen the number of people that are aware of selling a policy like this increase over the last so many years compared to where it was? And I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I'm guessing we have a lot of work to let other people know that have policies this exists.
You're right. There's always more work to be done, but I will say there is some silver lining to that, and that is that for the last decade, there has been heavy advertising about life settlements. People, if you're watching cable programming in particular, Fox News, CNN, TBS, TNT, you're seeing in heavy rotation TV commercials for life settlements, reverse mortgages, Medicare Advantage plans, and the pharmaceutical companies. Those are your big four that are advertising TV, radio, online. So there's more consumer awareness today about the option for a life settlement than ever before. But still, there's so much more room for education and awareness. On an annual basis, there's multiple billions of dollars a year of life settlements that are done. People are selling their life insurance policies. They're now, compared to 10 or 15 years ago when almost nobody knew this was an option, it is better known now, not only by the consumer, but by professionals, elder law attorneys, financial advisors, insurance agents, people who work in the long-term care space themselves, home care companies, assisted living companies, who, by the way, we've worked with for 2 decades, helping families access care through this. So there has been, we've made ground, but there's still plenty of ground ahead to be made up.
Folks, excuse me. Like I always say, please share this information. This is wonderful information that Chris is talking about. As we started this whole episode, so many of you, unfortunately, do not plan. Chris wants to change that. I want to change that. APlan2Age wants to change that. But here is one product, a settlement like this, that you can utilize, as I say, once the bell has rung, to find the funds that you're going to need, because unfortunately, as we've talked about, care is expensive, whether it's in the home, whether it's at a community. So if people, and I know they will, if people want to get in touch with you, Chris, what's the best way? An email, a phone number, a website? What would you like to give out?
I would invite people to visit our website, www.retirementgenius.com, simply enough, where you will find a wealth of information that can be read, that can be viewed, to understand how this and other options work, and then access the solutions to get to them. We're standing by to help put people, our job is to educate people, match them with a solution. And when it comes to this life settlement equation, the irony of this one solution is that the more pressing and the more your healthcare needs are increasing, the better the life settlement option does for you. If you're too young and healthy, you're not going to qualify. It's really for people that are aging and experiencing declining health. And guess what? It also doesn't cost anything. There are no costs associated with doing a life settlement. You're never going to pay one dime out of pocket.
Wow.
And from start to finish, somewhere between 30 and 90 days, you'll navigate getting this done. You'll have the experts doing it for you. You're just going to follow, you're going to fill out a couple of pages of an application, and the rest is going to take off from there. And pretty quickly, you're going to, number one, find out, do you qualify? Number two, how much value could you be paid for your life insurance policy? And then number three, the paperwork to take it through and complete the settlement and get that lump sum payment. It's a lump sum payment that a person is going to receive. But again, we have other information, other options on the website. But when it comes to a tool that is built to address an immediate need for care, I can't think of something better than the life settlement option, because the more pressing your care need is, the more valuable this is for you.
That's awesome. And folks, as you meet with friends and family over the next so many weeks, by the time we get this out, it may be past Thanksgiving, but meeting with them on Thanksgiving, meeting with them on Christmas, if this type of conversation comes up, please refer them to this episode when it's live. Let them see what Chris is talking about, hear what he's talking about. This could be beneficial for a lot of individuals. One last question, Chris. Is this available in almost any state?
Yes, this is available in all 50 states. And again, remember, as the owner of a life insurance policy, it is your legal right to access this option with your policy. Your policy is an asset. It is personal property. You own it. And in all 50 states, you can choose to settle your policy as an alternative to abandoning it.
That's awesome. That's awesome, folks. I'm excuse me again. So I really encourage you to listen to what Chris said. He's saying, please share this information. And as we get ready to sign off, folks, as I always say, have yourself an awesome day.